Live from the Pathway Studios in Johnston proper. You are live from the Path.
Holy Ghost. I rocked that one. You hear it? I knew that would happen. I turned your microphone up. I'm jiving in there like some kind of maniac. I'm the best. I'm the best color man in the business. Hey, you're listening live from the Path. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. What's everybody looking at? The moon. The moon man.
Moon man.
Oh, man.
It's kind of a distant moon.
It is kind of a distant moon. So here's the deal. It should be a pretty good show tonight. I hope you had a nice respite from the Life from the Path program last week.
Yeah.
I'd like to give you a break. You guys spent a lot of time hanging out here.
It's a lot of stress.
I know. And so I just want to give you a little bit of break last week, and but now we're back in action. I appreciate you joining us here tonight. And so here's what we're going to hit tonight. First of all, I want to talk about we're going to digest the Spirit Midwest Festival a little bit. We were sabotaged, and it could be a random guy, or it could be Jesus. So we're going to talk to that. We'll see what's going on.
Ben and I may have had the same feeling on this thing, on Jesus thwarting our efforts, and I'm not sure why, but I'm just going to trust that it was the way to go.
Yeah.
So if it was Jesus, it's probably good we took off.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you something else. If you recall from about a month ago, remember when I told you that ABS light story? Remember I told you I was driving in and I was praying and that my ABS light came on?
Yeah.
Okay. It hasn't come on again. It went away, and then it hasn't come back on.
Huh.
So think about that.
Just yeah.
My brakes have been really squeaky. Does that mean anything?
Yeah. Jesus after you now. You better straighten up your ways, Daniel.
So we're gonna digest the Spirit Midwest Music Festival. I think I put on the YouTube stuff that we were on week 9, but we're on week 13.
Yeah, we went through 2 because he was starting to get lame around week 10 and 11.
Yeah, so we're walking through the 50 proofs provided on GodIsImaginary.com on how God is imaginary. This week we're on proof number 13, which is take a look at slavery. This is an interesting post. I'm gonna have to try to truncate this guy because he is long-winded, and so we'll see if we can walk through this guy's position on the outrageousness of slavery. And we'll talk through that. That's our proof of the week. Also, we got
outrageous.
We got your advice and your chat. Well, so we'll do advice on Life in the Path. We'll do your chat. And Mike, you said you got Matthew tonight?
Yeah. So we've been reading through Matthew in my dudes holding each other accountable group, and boy, I tell you what, I came across just one thing, at least one thing. If I tried to take notes when I was reading Matthew, big mistake, right? Because you end up writing down the whole book. Because it's all very, like, especially you get into the Beatitudes.
28 chapters of notes.
Yeah, you get into the Beatitudes, it's like, this is Jesus talking to you directly. I'm like, I better write that. You know, I'm like, I'll just hit the highlights. Stuff
How
that
did
I
he
need
know that about me?
refresh myself throughout the week. And then it turns out, I'm like, dang it. So, I mean, I had like a page and a half worth of notes, and I read like a chapter.
There does seem something on the baseline problematic, like when you're going through the Bible and you're like, well, that is not important to me.
That's true.
This one's good.
What does Nehemiah know? But one of them I ran across is where I found that us as America, we've done something. We've enacted it as a part of our system, something that Jesus told us directly not to do. Now, not like where we have laws where you're permitted to do something maybe that God wouldn't want you to do, but like this is something where everybody does it, and we force them to do it, and Jesus specifically said, "Do not do this." And it's part of our it's part of our culture. It's part of something that we've done.
Do you think Dan has done it?
I doubt Dan has done it. I guess if you're put in a situation, you have to do it. You're forced by the system, by the man. So anyway, we're gonna talk about that on what situation. Like I think what it boils down to is, it's a lack of putting things in importance the way that God does. Right? Like if Jesus took the time to say something, that's important. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things he didn't say. He didn't tell you what color to paint your house. He didn't tell you where to buy your undies. He didn't tell you what job to have.
Right.
But he took the time to say certain things. And when he says something, I find it really odd that, especially if our, as we always paint it, like our founding fathers were Jesus-loving, God-fearing people. And like, we've directly done this that said, you have to do this, And so I found it really weird.
Okay. All right. So we're going to hit that. Nathaniel's in.
How's it going,
Nathaniel,
guys?
thanks for stopping by. Also, you're going to hear a mystery voice. We're going to call him the Moon Man. The Moon Man's in here. He's going to be providing commentary, but you don't get a look at him.
Hey, everyone.
See?
That's him.
See?
That's mysterious.
But now you can paint a picture of him in your mind.
Or her. Could be a her, too.
Yeah.
You don't know that.
Yeah, for all you know, I could be a girl.
Could be like an Olympic commentator talking about the gymnastics.
I don't know what that has to do with anything, Dan.
Did you watch any of the Olympics? You had kind of a low voice.
Hey,
No.
look at that go.
I'm like, who's talking?
Who is that?
Who could that be? Isn't that John Madden?
We'll call her Moon Woman.
All right, so anyway, that's what's on the docket today.
Yeah, so how do you think the Spirit Midwest Festival went? Hold on, let's do it from overall take and then us specifically.
Festival as a whole?
Yeah.
So they switched venues this year, right? Like last year they were at we were in West Des Moines, and this year moved out to St. Charles, and it was a bold choice.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you put yourself about 20-30 minutes south of town.
Yep.
People had to make the trek out there. Here's what I like. I like the no hassle. You're not in any surrounding areas. You can rock out to Jesus Town, and you don't have any problems in St. Charles.
True.
They're not going to come after you. I like the setup they had. They have a hard rock stage, they had a main stage, and they had the acoustic stage, the wood stage. I dig that wood stage, kind of out in the woods area. I thought it was kind of neat. It's kind of a neat aspect. Still had the chairs and the couches and stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
but kind of being in the middle of the woods was sweet.
Yeah. I had a nice picture of you playing on the wood stage, and I couldn't get it past the engineer who, well, I guess that's you. Yeah, we can't show it.
It's not gonna happen.
Okay, fair enough.
I look good, but I don't need to distract from the importance of the show.
Agreed.
Hard rock stage. I thought it sounded great in there.
Yeah.
I thought the room was better. Last year they had that big old brick area where they had the hard rockin'. Hard rockin' sounded sweet in that small area.
Agreed.
And so I dug on that. Main stage was a little problematic for us.
Yeah.
Because we were like right next to the thing.
Right by the speaker.
Oh man, alive.
And so, while there were good tunes going on, we were trying to conduct interviews, right? And we were yelling at people with cheap microphones. And I tell you, it wasn't going great. It wasn't going great. We've renamed the Spirit Midwest Music Festival this year as the technical disaster of 2012 for the Life from the Path radio broadcast.
We'll tell our grandkids, the summer of 212.
That's what it all took a tanker. Like, we didn't have one thing that went right. We were tanking left and right. The problem is we got to talk to cool people. Like we had an interview with Willett, and we had an interview with Todd Agnew. Todd Agnew's big time. He's
Very big time.
He's
Yeah.
downtown. You know what I'm
He's
saying?
mega big time.
Yeah, he does things, with himself. And he agreed to come on the program, and we're like, "Hey, Todd!" And he's just playing it cool, and we're yelling at the microphones, and they're cutting in and out, and the video feed's like squirreling, and we kept having grandeur ideas of how we were going to fix it. And I'm telling you, it was the mind machine rolling, because we threw 150 ideas on how to fix things. Every time something failed, we're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And we're like, we just need one of these. And it's like some obscure part that we don't have in a van, so we had to rig something up. And
then Jay would go, "Nah, that's not gonna work."
yeah, and then our help crew, Jacob would go, no, it's a terrible idea. So we almost had to throw him out.
Yeah, I just went and got pop because I figured, I
And so
didn't have anything to add.
it was kind of a good time, because it was just us, and we're there because we love Jesus and love to talk to people who are doing playing tunes for Jesus. But boy, the Life from the Path tent was just a stressful place to be.
It was.
If you knew anything about what was going on.
It was rough. The audio was bad. Video was bad. We were stationed in front of this like storm sewer culvert storage area.
Yeah.
Like it looks like we set up in a trailer park, and then we looked too high class, so they moved us and put us in the storage area.
Yeah.
It was a ton of fun, but man, we had all kinds of problems. And so towards the end of the night, we're trying to rig up this second camera shot on Todd Agnew.
We figure we're going to double down on Todd, right? He's the big name, so we're going to get 2 camera angles on Todd and good audio.
And we had our one success was we had a good shot of the main stage, but then it got dark and you couldn't see anybody. I might as well have been filming in my bathroom, as far as you knew something was happening on the stage. So we got this side angle of Todd Agnew, and it looked sweet. It looked like a legitimate something you would watch, right? And we couldn't get the shot to stay. And I kept having to restart the computer, and like one of the times it restarted, it just didn't come back. It died a slow, painful death, and just like it fired up like it was gonna do something, and then didn't do anything. It's like a Mike Foose type of action, Yeah. It lights up and says, "Hey man, something's gonna go on," and then nothing.
Yeah. Now we do have a photo of Todd Agnew sitting next to Mike Foose on our Facebook page.
Okay, see, that's cool.
So at least we can prove that it happened.
Yeah, we can prove he was there. Now, whether he was happy about it
He's looking disgusted at
or
you,
even
Mike.
interested, either way.
He's looking at like Why am I talking to you?
Yeah, people
What?
do that all the time.
Don't you know I'm a pro
Yeah,
and you're not?
and it so the computer went down, right? And then and we're like, well, we can try to get it fixed, but I mean, our broadcast computer is kind of it's a mean machine. You know, it's not something you just pick up at the Best Buy. You know, it's got to be homemade, and it does some business.
Yep.
And so there's no chance of replacing it. So we're like, well, I guess we should pack up. It's time for us to go.
So here's the thing I said. Like, I restarted a few times, took it down to the bare nubbins, trying to do some kind of PC tech doctor stuff out in the middle of this dusty field area place. And I thought, I could keep restarting this thing, but it's not gonna change. And I'm gonna. Well, you could wait 2 hours, but like that's like a fool's bet. Oh, I'll just wait. And
It might work.
Time will heal the computer. And so I said, I'm not gonna do the foolish thing and hang out here and wait. And we're gonna sleep in this camper. Mike brings this camper, all right. And this thing, there's something wrong with the generator in it.
Yeah.
So it does this. Like the power surges every half a second, so it goes rum, rum, rum.
I have video of it.
The whole night it's doing this, and every time it does that, the lights go down. I mean, it was. You couldn't have set up like a scary movie setup any closer. You got 4 to 5 dudes hanging out in this trailer in the middle of nowhere, and rum.
It was kind of creepy.
So anyway, we were going to stay, and then we were going to head out in the morning. And we did. We packed up and we left. I take this computer home, and I fire it up like 3 days later. I'm like, I got to figure out what's going on with this thing. We're going to broadcast. And sure enough, pops right on. No problems. I checked the event logs, just to check and see, like, what happened. No record of any problems at all. So Mike and I had talked about this like the day after and said, for some reason I'm getting the impression the Lord wants us out of here. And I'm not usually that guy. I usually don't have the feeling that the Lord has like stepped into my life and kicked me out of a festival. I really think I ate a bad burrito and I brought this upon myself. That's the kind of situations I put myself in. But for some reason I just had this feeling. I'm like, I feel like God wants us out of there. And I have no idea why. I mean, nothing caught fire. There's no kind of nefarious dealings going on.
No, it's just a completely legitimate Christian festival.
Maybe it wasn't God.
You think something else tanked our computer, Dan?
There is another spiritual, powerful being out there.
You think God let him dominate? Because he could have
he
stepped in and
worms
fixed
in
it.
sometimes?
No.
Maybe I wasn't praying about the Spirit Midwest event. That God would oversee it, protect it.
Now, hold on. That is not the God I know, Daniel. That goes on a technicality. That goes, oh, life from the path. I would have protected you from the devil's nefarious deeds, but you didn't talk to me today about this specific event. Oh, come on, Daniel. No, I'm saying.
You guys are blaming God for kicking us out of
Not blaming.
No.
No, I'm not saying that it wasn't for the best. I don't know his ways. I don't know what he thinks is great or the best way to go. I'm not saying it was a bad move. I guess that's what I'm saying. I don't know why he'd have done it, but if he'd have done it, I certainly won't question him about it.
Yeah, that was my thought. I wasn't like, why did you take me out of here? I thought, oh, well, must have been something else going on.
That's what I thought. I had a good night with the family that night. I wouldn't have had it without it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gone to Cracker Barrel.
See? Nathaniel wouldn't have been
That's
there.
probably it. Did you meet a waitress there that you're praying for now?
No.
No.
We just pretty much made
Well,
fun
God
of Jacob.
love you.
Yeah.
Moon Man, you been to the Cracker Barrel?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When was the last time you've been?
Oh, my daughter's birthday.
Sweet.
Yeah.
What'd you have?
Oh, I don't. Something tasty.
That's all
But
they
no,
have.
I don't
there.
remember. Yeah.
That's all they have, the Cracker Barrel.
Probably
Did you buy
steak
any
or
of their
something.
knickknacks?
Oh. Yeah, I like the peppermint sticks they got.
Would that have been your daughter's first birthday?
Yeah.
Because I don't think of that as a birthday party for a child.
No, it was more for her grandparents. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You either go, look, you want to go to Chuck E. Cheese or Cracker Barrel?
Well, yeah. When she turns 5, we'll
They
do
have a
Chuck E.
gift
Cheese.
shop.
I got to go with Cracker Barrel, Dad. Definitely.
They got pancakes.
Yeah, so that was the Spirit Midwest Music Festival.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun.
It really was.
Just some odd circumstances.
I kind of look. It's kind of like a family reunion. You go there and you see all these people you don't see every day.
Yep.
But you see them like every year at the festival, and I enjoyed going out there. I went back the next day, and kind of hung out, and watched Ben do.
Yeah, here's the thing that amazes me actually is that we know people there. Like we've gotten to know quite a few people in the music community around here, and like people who put on shows and promote and that kind of deal. And I'm almost hurt that they don't know us well enough that they expect things to be going okay. They come over and like, looks good, fellas. Everything looks like it's up and running. I'm like, you don't know us at all. This thing is holding on by dental floss. There's like one guy that's like, how's things really going? Like, pretty rough. That's the guy that loves us. You know what I'm saying? He knows how we operate. Things are barely hanging on. But it was very cool. It's very cool to be invited out there, and it's an awesome festival. And if we get more than 3 people watching the show, we'll get some people out next year, boys.
Yeah.
People come out.
I think it's going to happen.
So anyway, yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, well, you're listening to Live from the Path. We were just kind of walking through our experience at the Spirit Midwest Music Festival this year, and I would highly encourage. I mean, I thought it went well, and I think it's something to look forward to for next year. And the cool thing is, like, we have a lot of those bands in during the off season, we'll call it, and to kind of get to see them live, like full bore. They got full electricity and stuff. We kind of rope them down here. They don't get to do their thing, but it's kind of cool to get out there and see them go about their business and praise the Lord in that way. And so anyway, I just something to put on your calendar for next year.
Agreed.
I think we're checking out.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or does the main stage get smaller every year? Is it just me?
Like the stage itself?
Yeah, the stage itself. The size of the stage.
I don't know. I guess I haven't been paying attention.
Maybe you're just getting bigger.
Maybe
Oh, man!
I remember this so much bigger.
that just blew your mind.
Yeah, it did. That's mind-boggling.
That's some Moon Man magic right there.
Okay, so here's the deal. So I was reading through Matthew.
Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Like when you say Covington, when you say how about some love, like what are you looking for? 4 guys in a room, 5 guys in a room to go, we love Covington.
I love Covington. He's, out of all the people at Spirit Midwest, Covington is my
Dan,
favorite.
we stop that. Covington, start your own show if that's what you want.
I just really love Covington.
I had to leave in the middle of it though because we had things to do that night. But, so.
Oh, you guys are
It wasn't
terrible.
that I was mad at you, Covington.
Listen to you. This is why people have a problem with CNN and Fox News. A bunch of pandering doofuses on here.
I might throw it out there, Covington, that it's you. You're getting pretty desperate if you're looking for a verbal back rub from 5 dudes on a Jesus radio program.
All right, Mike, what you got? Okay, so I was reading through Matthew, and like I said, I was trying to take notes, and then it all blew up in my face, right? Because a bunch of note taking, and I thought all this is really important. Maybe I'll just reread it in times of need. But I came across where Jesus he started the Beatitudes, right? And he started talking about the oath. And I always like this. I always like this part, and then I always apply it to my own life on whether I'm overextending what I'm agreeing to, right? But here's what it says. It's Matthew 5:33. Again, you have heard that it was said to those of old, "You shall not swear falsely, but shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn." But I say to you, do not take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. And do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil. And I always love that little snippet of scripture, right? Because it's Jesus in his loving, kind way putting you in your place. Like, first of all, he's saying, don't talk about things you don't know about. Don't swear by heaven. You don't know anything about that. It's beyond your reach, and you don't own anything there. It's not of you to talk about, right? Don't swear by earth because you didn't make it. It's been gifted to you, and it's not under your authority. Don't even swear by your own head because you're useless. You can't do anything. You know what I'm saying? Don't swear at all. And then it occurred to me, like, this is part of our legal system. Like, when you walk up, when you testify at court, they say, you put your hand on the Bible, and they say, do you swear to tell the whole truth, blah, blah, blah. Put your hand on the Bible, right? And I thought, Jesus specifically said, do not do that. Like, it's in there, black and white. The Koine Greek, whatever, it's there. There's no way to translate it that Jesus is not saying swear on something. He says do not do that at all. Don't do it.
Yeah, his point is every time you speak, it should always be the truth. I mean, you don't have to swear on something because you're just going to speak the truth.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, so at the very least, it would seem like an unnecessary exercise. I was thinking about this a lot this week when it comes to our attempts to disengage nefarious types, right? You put warning signs up, and like the guy that's most likely to do the wrong thing is not going to be dissuaded by your sign.
Right.
Right. The same guy that's willing to murder somebody in cold blood is also not dissuaded by putting his hand on the Lord's word.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like he's already kind of taken the shot and said, "Screw you, I'll do what I want." And so it's weird if you think how many protections, how many labels we have to put on the hairdryer. Like it's either because we are so inadequate in our lives to be able to live in a way that doesn't cause our own selves harm, or we are so nefarious. Either way, the warning signs or the things that we do to keep people in line, in a moral line, like for the most part, they don't regulate people's behavior. They just identify it. Like you just happen to be the guy that we can say he went against the warning sign because a normal person wouldn't put the hairdryer in the bathtub.
Well, yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, look at there's always going to be, and we were talking about this with like your politics in general, the healthcare law, whatever, all these things that they're passing, right? Like, no matter what you pass, no matter how you enact it, there's always going to be 20% of the people that are going to do whatever they want anyway. And so no matter what system you've come up with, whether I agree with it or it's in the complete opposite spectrum of me, either one of those could probably work if they were put into their truest form and done how you've described, right? But they can't ever be done that way because there's always 20% of the people that are going to go, screw it, I'll do what I want. They see the keep off the grass sign and they go, that doesn't apply to me.
For other people.
I'll walk wherever I want, Do not park during 6 and 9. I'll do what I want. I park on 6 and 9. Snow route. I do what I please, Like, there's always those people. And so, and if there wasn't those people, the signs almost wouldn't be necessary, right? You see freshly planted grass, people would look at it and go, whoa, maybe I better not step on that. I don't want to ruin the man's grass. But then there's other people just tramp right over it. So they try the sign, and the same guy will tramp right over it again. And so, I find it really funny that like that whole statute where they're like, put your hand on the Bible. Like some guy's like, I was willing to kill a guy and then steal all his money and then lie about it to try to get out of trouble. But now that I'm in court and all touching this Bible, I feel like I should come clean. I've also hired this extremely high-priced lawyer to try to finagle my way out of this with words and fancy graphs. I'll tell him the truth, but hopefully he'll do his job, It seems lame. It seems really lame.
Can't you opt out of that, though?
I don't know, can you?
Out of the swearing? I think there are rules that you can't opt out of that because of that specific
Do you have to do
verse.
it live? Because, like, if I'm a jury, wouldn't I feel like if the guy that refused to do it, inappropriately,
Well,
but I think I would judge him and think, well, why do you refuse?
Well, it could be a religious issue. I mean,
Yeah, that-
if you're not a Christian, then what's the point of the Bible? It's just a book. So
Yeah.
I think, though, if I were on the jury and I saw a guy say, you know what, I'm not going to swear, I'd be like, he's guilty. Definitely guilty.
He's gonna fry.
Why would he not do it?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems really.
I once knew a kid who his father wouldn't let him join the Boy Scouts because you have to take an oath. And he referred to that verse and said, no oaths. You're not joining the Boy Scouts, boy.
Ooh, I guess I didn't think about that.
Do you put that in the same book, Dan?
I don't. I mean, it's kind of missing the spirit of what he's getting at. His point is be truthful, speak the truth, and don't go around swear by things that you didn't create in the first place. I mean, I don't think like the Boy Scouts. Like I'm just pledging to be a moral person. I mean,
I think the difference between, say, the court thing and the Boy Scout thing is like you're having to establish against another authority when it comes to the thing in court. You're having to say, I swear by this thing or on this thing, of which you do not have the right to do. An oath is really just talking. They just told you what to say, and you're agreeing with it by saying it. I mean, you could have just showed up to the Boy Scout place, and they don't hand you anything. You say, by the way, I'm going to do the following as part of the Boy Scouts.
Now wait a minute. So is the marriage vows an issue? Do you blah 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 take so and so by so
No,
help
it's
you
just
God?
a promise. I'm not swearing
Yeah, but
against anything.
You're saying so help you God?
well, that's the point. I'm promising to God, and I need God's help to fulfill these vows.
That so help me God thing's actually kind of weird. That phrasing of that is weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost sounds sassy. Like, I'm going to marry this woman. So help me, God. Like, I'm in big trouble.
Moon Man has a thought.
Well, I mean, it's kind of contingent on the Lord's willing. Same type of phrase, I guess. My intentions to do this, Lord willing, tomorrow, that sort of thing. But it's not just marriage. Like, what about taking out a loan on your house? Because there's a whole contingency clause of what happens if you're not able to make all your payments. They have this whole description of what you're going to lose as collateral, things like that. So that's kind of what the verse is going for.
And that's a good thought too, because like those things, those are contracts, right? Those are built to fail. There's contingencies in there to say my word may not be any good. In which case you'll have to take my car.
Well, I think that's the essence of what Jesus is getting at, is your word should be worth something, and if it's not, then it's not going to be backed up to make it more credible.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. Don't discredit your own word and then try to drag me into your business.
Actually, exactly. Now that I think about it, those contracts are preposterous because you're saying, hey, I agree to make the payments, but I may not be trustworthy, so if I don't make the payments, you can take my car. Here's my signature agreeing to this item.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much saying I can't
I'm
be trustworthy.
Have you ever heard someone say, I swear on a whole stack of Bibles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would you need more than one?
I don't know, but I heard someone say it just once. This is one time I was talking to this lady, and she said, "I swear on a whole stack of Bibles," and I just started laughing at her because I thought it was funny.
She must be a Gideon. Who else keeps that many Bibles?
Nobody will take my Bibles. They're all King James. So I swear on them now.
I swear on a whole stack of King James.
What are we gonna do with these Bibles, man? I don't know. Swear on them.
Swear on them. Put them up in a stack first, though.
We're either doing that or making a fort. I'd go into King James Bible fort. What happened? Dan left like a squirrel and everything tanked.
All right.
Speaking of Bible
All right, so
forts.
let me ask you this: so you're brought into court as a witness. Are you going to pass? Are you going to pass on the swearing?
I think they give you the option to just raise your right hand and take an oath right there. Bible or not.
So when you say "I do solemnly swear,"
Right.
it's not on anything.
It's just your own personal integrity.
You were swearing in court.
I'd rephrase.
Like refuse to say what they tell you to say.
Yeah, they could say it, and then I'll say, I'm going to tell you the truth.
You're that 20%.
My-
I'll do as I please.
My yes is yes, my no is no. I'm saying yes.
Yeah, and any lawyer that brings you in as a witness is going to probably just
And then I'll
elect to not bring you in.
I'll cite Matthew. I'll say, Matthew 5. My yes is a yes.
Jesus told me the other night.
And here's what's going to happen. The jury will go, there will be 5 old ladies on the jury go, he's trustworthy.
There you
I
go.
plead the Matthew 5th.
That's the first legitimate funny thing you've ever said, Nathaniel.
Oh, man.
Flag the tape.
Come on. I said funny things before.
You're listening to Live from the Path. We're hanging out here in the old Pathway Studios after a week off,
Yeah.
and I'm glad to be back in here. Nathaniel's joining us. This is the last night. Nathaniel's heading back to school.
Tomorrow now.
Yeah, he's going to be out. I see as he gets closer to leaving, he stops bringing gifts. Usually he's brings some
Oh, that's true.
bring some of that lemonade from the Greens.
Usually I'm working at the Greens before I come here. I was not working at the Greens tonight.
So will you be on the chat next week, and we can do work through your homework with you?
Yeah, sure. Actually, no. No, I will not, because the last time I tried to get on the chat, even watch the show down there, the internet is extremely slow because every other student is using it, and they're sucking it up watching their YouTube videos.
Everybody watches Life from the Path, but
Yeah,
I
all of
understand that.
Cat
It's all,
videos.
it's all,
So,
it's all those guys.
So they take up
There's
all
a
the
drain nationwide, as a matter of fact.
they take up all the broadband, and the show is too fast for the internet to keep up.
Oh, that's a bummer.
So every once in a while I'll get Mike going, and then it cuts out again.
Yeah, that's me. I laugh like jovially.
Well, now hold on. The question from the chat was: are you really violating anything by taking the oath? You're just upholding the cultural norms. I don't know. I feel like you are. I feel like as part of what you're swearing on is problematic.
Well, Jesus was opposing the cultural norms when he introduced this whole thought.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
whole Sermon on the Mount was against.
But maybe addressing the question, like if someone brought you I don't know, a sack of roasted turkey and said, "Will you swear on this thing?" Is that a problem? Is it what you're swearing on?
I think it's swearing at all, because that's the whole point, right?
Yeah, but then does the Boy Scout thing come into problem?
That's an oath.
No,
I think that's different.
The subtitle is oaths. Matthew 5, oaths.
I'm sorry. Jesus did not subtitle the written record.
He inspired a man to do it.
Talk to whatever his
an
name.
oath at all. But I say to you, do not take an oath at all. In other words, everybody should just know, oh, Mike's speaking, it's obviously true.
He says the truth. He doesn't have to go above and beyond and commit to anything above.
So if you say, look, I want you to come and I want you to join my Rotary Club. Raise your right hand. Say you swear to uphold this office. Blah blah blah. And I say, look, I don't make oaths, but yes, I will do that.
Yeah, if your credibility's not up there that you need to feel like you need to back it up with an oath, then you need to work on your credibility.
True.
And get that in place.
So, but if your credibility is otherwise strong, but the cultural norm is to do oaths, problem?
Yeah. I mean, how easy can you bend? I mean, if people are going to think you're some kind of staunch Jesus man, that's what you're going for. You know what I'm saying? I follow the Bible straight up.
That's
My-
what it says.
My
Chad-
yes is a yes.
Chad says we're nitpicking. Too technical, legalistic.
Now listen, how much ground? Now,
Pharisaical.
No, because Jesus could have easily just said, hey, look, go ahead and take an oath under certain conditions, go and not take an oath under other conditions. But he didn't do that. He just said, no, don't take oaths.
Here's the thing: like how much we cede a lot of ground, like the stuff that we get out of the Bible and the stuff that we say that we're going to live our life by. We cede a lot of ground for a lot of reasons, for a lot of dumb reasons. You know what I'm saying? Think how many things that we just give or take just a little bit, just to fit in a little bit more. You know, not to be so countercultural, not to be so in your face. You're like, well, if I just tone it down a little bit and I don't push this so hard. This is one of those deals. You know what I'm saying? Don't give it up so easy. Let your yes be yes, your no be a no, and drop it.
Yeah, what are they gonna do? Throw you out of court? If you just say my yes will be yes, my no will be a no, I'm not gonna.
They'll hold you
I'm not
in
gonna oath
contempt.
myself.
Yeah,
I don't know if the heart of this is Jesus saying, raise a big stink and say, hey, I'm a Christian, I don't take oaths. And I think the point is, don't go in creating oaths in order to make false promises you don't intend to keep anyway, but now you're making an oath so people believe you.
that doesn't say that.
I'm just saying what I think.
Well, it doesn't say that, Dan.
That's what I think.
What if someone else interprets it another way? Now we got a real problem on our hands.
You're hurting my feelings.
I feel like we're doing a Bible study here, not Dan's talk show. Tell me what to do. We're learning Bible, Dan. So break it down. Draw us some lines here. I think Jesus drew a line here that says, look, don't swear by anything. Just say yes and just say no. That's it.
Yeah. I think that in your day-to-day life, that's how you are to be. Yes. You shouldn't have to run around and say, no, really, swear to God. It's like, no, it's because I spoke, it's true. So you should just know that. But I don't know if it means, like, if you're in a situation where we're asking you to take an oath that he's...
Are we saying that an oath and allegiance to something
better.
are two different things? Like, I can say, I pledge my allegiance to this thing without swearing by it. Like, I pledge my allegiance to the Boy Scouts that I will do best to uphold your organization and the standards you have set before me.
You know, just thinking real broadly here. You know, I think a lot of this comes down to is how loose we are with the words that we use, with the words that we write, with the things that we say. Like, we are just so, as a culture, as a people, we are just so careless. And even as people that follow Christ, we're careless with the words that we use. We don't really mean the things that we mean. We use words that we think we should use, but don't mean them. We're just loose with our words. So when I think, if I thought I said I made a promise to somebody, but like, I mean, does that mean everything? Am I concerned about the integrity of the words that I use, or am I loose with my own words? Am I loose with the integrity that's behind them, and like loose with what people think based upon the things that I say? And I think that's a spot where, you know, we probably all have room to look at and say, am I careful with the things that I say? Am I careful with how I talk to people? Am I careful with when I promise, when I say I'm going to do something? You know, do I do it, or do I just intend to do it and that's good enough? Because that's broadly. It's the question is how important.
I feel like you guys do this all the
trustworthy
time.
are your words?
I feel like you do this all the time. Like, you take something that the Bible has said specifically, and preachers are known for this. Almost every preacher I listen to, they take something that's specifically said in the Bible and they go, here's the broad thing that you should be getting from this, and take away the specific thing that Jesus said. I feel like it's some kind of that they give you in school or something that you do this to me. So here's the deal. I read a passage and I say, and Jesus says, do not swear, do not take an oath, right? Do not swear by anything because you can't change anything. Don't swear, right? And then you guys come rolling in and you say,
well, you can swear when I say it's all right.
Here's the broad picture. Just watch your tongue sometimes. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, okay. I think you're ceding ground.
I'm not saying what you're saying. It doesn't fit into.
You're just trying to make it more palatable.
No. I'm not. No, I didn't change the impact of it. What I said was, I actually think it's broader than that. I think the impact is even more. It may be applicable in your specific circumstance, but even beyond that, we just use loose words. We don't keep in mind on what we say.
Here's what the IVP Bible background commentator says.
Oh, great. Another blowhard we can listen to.
People swore by all sorts of things other than God to testify that their word was true. They reasoned that if they broke their oath based on any of these lesser things, at least they were not bringing God's name into disrepute. It eventually became necessary for rabbis to decide which oaths were being completely binding. Jesus says everything by which one could swear is ultimately God's and demands that people simply be as good as their word. Jesus argues the point in part of Scripture, Isaiah, blah, blah. So, yeah, they were trying to get it as they would swear by lesser things because it wasn't that big. Okay, so I only swore by the earth, so I wasn't like I swore by God. And he's like, no, just speak the truth. So is the message in this the oath, that they made an oath, or is it who they made the oath to? Gotta get a little historical context.
What was the answer? The oath, or who they made the oath to?
Well, I didn't read it all. I got as far as I wanted to go.
Throwing in a little more historical context, the rabbis would look at the oath in terms of did the person actually have the ability to pay it back? And if they did, it's a binding oath. If they didn't have the ability to pay it back, then they were obviously just talking, and it'll have to be resolved between them and God. So, like, for example, if you made an oath based on the gold on the temple, that's binding, because you could, in theory, replace the gold. But if they made an oath by the temple, I mean, there's no way that anyone could actually rebuild the temple. So if I said, oh yeah, I swear by the temple, then everyone knew that, okay, well, yeah, maybe you'll get around to it. But if you say something like, I swear by the gold on the temple, then they know, okay, you're really serious about it. And that was kind of the cultural standard of the day. And it's actually kind of insulting, because now it's taking elements like the temple or the scriptures or things that really should be revered and holy, and it's making for a silly oath out of it. And Jesus is like, no, that's ridiculous. And also, so is the idea that you should be replacing the gold. Just go back to speak truth. I mean, keep it simple. You shouldn't have to back it up with some kind of outside credibility.
Okay, so now that based off what both of you have said, I would submit that you put those two things together, and it means let your word be just what it is, nothing more. Maybe the Boy Scout thing is a bit nitpicky. Maybe the hand on the Bible is a bit nitpicky.
Yeah.
So just tell the truth and straighten it up.
Yeah.
Broadly, I think that it just means, let me expound on this. I don't want you to have to read your own Bible or follow exactly what it says. Here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you the big picture of it, and you swim in that ocean. You just swim in it. You swim in it, Jesus, man. You just swim in there where Jesus love you. You guys, I tell you, in your wordsmiths, I can't take it.
Oh, no.
God's not imaginary, and He wants you to tell the truth.
Let's hit our God's Not Imaginary, or GodIsImaginary.com. We're in week 13. This is proof number 13, and he says our buddy wants to take a look at slavery. Now, he goes, here's 10 passages from the Bible that clearly demonstrate God's position on slavery. I'll see if I can truncate it a little bit.
Can you maybe summarize his argument through that? I mean, is it that God has a position on slavery that's different than our culture, or is it that God contradicts himself on slavery? Because those are usually the two directions.
No, he's not going with contradiction. He's saying God is for it. He's established it. He's given us rules as to how to deal with it, or to how to hold slaves. He's for buying slaves. And
now hold on, just to make sure, Moonman, have you ever owned slaves?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Nathaniel,
not
slaves?
Yet.
Slaves?
Nope.
I have not had slaves. Dan?
Not me, no.
No, Dan, that doesn't count.
I'm thinking. I don't recall ever like lending someone money so that they owed me their lives. No, I have not owned slaves.
So just to
I do have a puppy.
Just for a heads up, I mean, we are kind of one-sided on this thing. None of us are slave owners. Go ahead, Ben.
Okay.
So then I guess his argument is God's a bad politician because his policy is different than modern society?
That is what he's saying. He says, Jesus, here, I'll see if I can pick and choose some of his stuff here. Here God shows that the children of slaves are slaves themselves, and that he is completely happy with that concept. Leviticus chapter 25, he says, God states where you may purchase your slaves, and clearly specifies that slaves are property to be bought, sold, and handed down. Luke chapter 7, verse 2 talks about Jesus shows that he is completely comfortable with the concept of slavery. Jesus heals the slave without any thought of freeing the slave or admonishing the slave's owner. Colossians chapter 3, God shows that he is in complete acceptance of a slave's position and encourages slaves to work hard. That sentence is repeated in Titus 2, chapter 2. Summation, basically, God loves slavery. If the Bible is written by God, and these are the words of the Lord, then you can come to only one possible conclusion. God is an impressive advocate of slavery and is fully supportive of the concept. As you can see, these slavery passages present us with an immense contradiction. On one hand, we know that slavery is an outrage and a moral abomination. As a result, slavery is now completely legal throughout the developed world. On the other hand, most Christians claim that the Bible came from God. In God's word, the creator of the universe states that slavery is perfectly acceptable. Beating your slaves is fine. Enslaving children is fine. Separating slave families is fine. According to the Bible, we should all be practicing slavery today. The intensity of this contradiction is remarkable. It shows us quite clearly that God is imaginary. If God were to exist, and if he were playing any role whatsoever on our planet, he would eliminate this connection between himself and slavery. There is no way that a loving God will allow himself to be perceived as condoning and encouraging slavery like this. Here is the thing that I would like to help you understand. You, as a rational human being, know that slavery is wrong. You know it. That is why every single developed nation in the world has made slavery completely illegal. Human beings make slavery illegal in direct defiance of God's word because we all know with complete certainty that slavery is an abomination. What does your common sense now tell you about a Bible that supports slavery in both the Old and New Testaments? Given the fact that the Bible clearly condones slavery, your common sense should be telling you that God is imaginary. Thoughts?
Well, it just tells me that God was actually active in the ancient world. Here, let me explain it this way. Fast forward about 500 years in human history, and let's just imagine that we actually get past the economic system of the world as it is today, where human beings can actually be equal. And then we start looking back at the world 500 years in the past and see, wow, what a barbaric economic system they had, where people actually owned things and people would go to crazy lengths and dehumanize themselves because of economics. What a barbaric thing. Well, all right, we would actually have to grow to get to the point where we can get beyond that kind of barbarism. So what I'm saying is that there's been a progression of growth in terms of human ability to work economically. And the ancient world, if you were to abolish slavery just suddenly, overnight, the world would have collapsed and starved. It wasn't really a feasible thing, but look at what God did in the context of the day. He always moved the goalpost. There's actually a progression. Every time God ever presented anything in the Bible, it was always a progression going from what the norm was to more dignified, even in terms of slavery ownership and just the way that slaves must be treated with respect. It was a step forward in its day. God was always moving towards this idea that these are wonderful human beings created in His image and should be treated with respect. At no point during the time that the Bible was written was the world really ready to abolish slavery completely. But we've finally been able to get to that point. Amen. Thank you, God.
Yeah.
So praise Him for that. But if God had gone in and said, "Okay, get rid of all slavery," they'd have no response, nothing that they could really replace it with. Their economic system wasn't there yet.
Right, and I think it's worth noting, and then the chat has kind of made this point too, is that the concept of slavery in biblical times, both in the New and the Old Testament, is different than the way that we would think of slavery, like a Civil War era American slavery. Much of the slavery was done either voluntary, like indentured servant type of stuff, like you couldn't pay, and so you did the work.
You didn't say yes. You swore by something you shouldn't have.
So yeah, I mean, it is a little different concept. I think, rightly so, the American attitude towards slavery is an abhorrent one, for large part on our own actions, that our culture, allowed this, and defended it fiercely, even using God's word to do it. And we have that, and I think it's something that it's healthy for as our culture for us to have in the back of your mind, to recognize where we've come and what that progression has been. But it's also not fair to paint that same situation onto the folks that are represented in the Old and the New Testament. It's just different. It's not the same outlook. It's not the same treatment, and most of it was either voluntary or a lot of the slaves that would end up working for the country because they were captured. They were captured as part of a military campaign, and as part of it, they were captured and taken back. The Israelites were in that same situation. They ended up slavery under Egypt. They ended up slavery under Nebuchadnezzar. It's, same basic principle. So I think understanding that concept, and I think one of the things that he says, and he's obviously to put himself in the mind of God inappropriately. God did not ever condone slavery. He acted within the human confines, and that's, I think, a reasonable question is to say, God could step in and end anything He wanted to. I mean, murder is abhorrent to Him. He could just stop people in general. Like he has the ability to step in. He permits. Generally, the argument would be made out of love, out of freedom, to be able to make choices. That requires people to make the wrong choice if they're able to make the right one. And so given that freedom, people will make the wrong choices. That's why God ultimately will step in and redeem the world. And all sin will be punished. But that type of behavior, the question is, why didn't He just step in and stop it? I mean, other sin is also permitted. God's timing is God's timing, and I think it's an interesting discussion to have with God when you see him. But like, it's not inconsistent with his character in he permits us to live in a world that is fallen, that he will ultimately redeem.
And I think that he's missing, just kind of put another layer on what we've already said, is the terminology, the definition of slavery, what it is we are full blown in slavery today. I mean, we're probably more into slavery today than we have been in our history, in that, like, when I buy a car and say I will work for 4 years and I will pay you what I haven't had a car payment for years. I mean, $500 a month for this fancy car. I have just signed up to say X many hours of my week belong to Ford or Chevy or whoever, you know. And we just have a different way of doing it. We don't tithe our goats and our lambs.
Yeah.
We work and we pay a check. So it's the same thing. And it's the same thing in the slavery way, is I've already determined that X amount of my paycheck is going to go to pay my house payment. Now, I can choose to sell the house and get out of it, but I am a slave for 15, 20, 30 years, however long your mortgage is, until that house is done. My life, part of my time belongs to the mortgage lender. It's theirs. And I can't get out of it. I can't just decide, it's just not right to be a slave. It's like, okay, then you lose your house. You know, you've stepped out of the agreement. And that's what a lot of the slavery was, as you mentioned, was a lot of the slavery was throughout the biblical times. Hey, I have this debt and I can't pay it, so I'm giving you me for 3 years, or, you know, whatever. It depends on the size of the debt. We're doing the same thing. So I'm hoping this guy has no debt, because otherwise he's involved.
He falls under the same.
He's a slave. I'm a slave. I'm a slave to my lender.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you didn't have. We live in such a, heads up, Mike, a notional society.
I knew it.
It's based upon.
I knew we lived in a society like that. I was
in a
sure.
broader sense.
It's it's a notional society to the fact that, like, we deal largely in non-real goods, like things that we treat as real things. And conceptually, we act as if they are real things, but when you look at it, it's not real. Insurance is a fake.
Yeah.
It's a fake thing. It's just a promise one guy made to the other. It's not a tangible asset, but people contribute. They tie themselves to it.
Yeah, except their promise has 30 pages of stuff I can't read.
You know, and the less money you make, the more you focus on what's my monthly payment rather than how much does this cost. When you go buy a car, I've never understood the idea of, well, how much per month is this? It's like, well, how about aren't you more concerned about what it's going to cost you? Well, I've just agreed to pay $25,000 for a $14,000 car at X amount of month. I mean, they're totally ripping us off in this lending society, and it's a slave. It is slavery, as defined in the biblical term.
Right. You're just tied to it differently. You're able to. Your slavery is tied to your income. You're not having to go to that guy and give it to him, and you're not having to go to his farm and work it off.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a promise you make.
We're not sweeping his floors
Yeah.
and doing the dishes and stuff at the car dealership.
He's
I'll
agreed
just
to
give you-
take your greenbacks instead of your work.
So chapter 11's like the year of Jubilee. Everybody should do it.
I'm in.
That'd be nice, yeah.
And everybody does.
But see, you also went into that knowing when the year of Jubilee was.
Mhm.
You knew, okay, I've got 17 years left or whatever. You know, is that the 49 year or the 7 year?
7.
Because every 7.
Yeah.
Isn't the big one?
No,
every
no.
49.
Slaves are freed and lands returned after 49.
Up to 49. Yeah. So
What's the
you
7?
knew I got a
7
49-year
is
mortgage
something.
or a 7-year mortgage. You know, you knew when it was coming, and so someone would say, "Hey, I'm not going to go into that agreement with you because you owe me way too much money for that." You know, I mean, they could barter based on how much time they had left. So.
Right. Well, so let's just look at slavery. Now, here's the thing. I will say, this I find to be a decently interesting question, because it's appropriate to read and take into consideration God's character and how He interacts with His people, especially if you have a view that something is going on that you feel like makes God inconsistent with how He treats people. So this I find actually to be a reasonable of His discussions up to this point. This one I find a little bit more reasonable and an appropriate thing to talk about, because ultimately you should come out with a better understanding of the nature and character of God through the health of that discussion.
And to throw the God element in here, God does say, "Hey, don't borrow money."
Yeah, that's true.
Why? Because the borrower is a slave to the lender.
See, so where are we at here? Like, it's just another thing we've ignored. Like, the society gives us no choice. We got to borrow money.
That's true.
Don't borrow.
Is that sinful behavior or just poor life choices where God's trying to keep you from having bad trouble?
I think it's poor life choices. I don't know if.
What do you mean or?
It's both.
Could be both.
It could. In fact, it's largely both, right?
Yeah.
Number 2 is always number 1.
Yeah.
Tricky.
How do you survive in a society like that? Like, I couldn't save enough money by the time I'm 18 to buy anything, to do anything.
What's
Actually,
actually
as
that's
a family, though. I
What-
mean, working together as a family, you can give gifts to the younger generation.
Yeah,
I'll
we
take it.
stopped doing that. Like, everybody stopped doing that.
Why?
I don't know.
Well, let's bring it back.
Such a good
They're hanging on to their cash.
That's true.
That's because I can't be counted on to take care of them. If my old man gave me 20 grand to make sure I got a house bought, and he turned out to be 80 and causing trouble, I'd put him in a home, definitely. No wonder he won't give me any money. he knows the deal.
It's that's weird when you think about that. From a cultural or a relative perspective in our culture, it's difficult to make swings like that because of decisions made in the past, right? Like I'd like to say I want to be able to provide for my family and I'm going to work hard to do it. I don't have the backing of the generation before me to do it. When the system was there, it had some kind of flow to it, and there were unnatural things or occurrences that you brought upon yourself that caused a break in that system. But broadly, the culture was, I mean, people were concerned about taking care of their grandkids. Solomon taught, the Proverbs talks about that,
Right.
having enough for that. But like, we've totally lost it. We're barely getting by on our own.
And we've added huge college bills on top of it.
Well, let me ask you this. What if you, instead of buying a house and taking out a loan, just rent and decide that my generation of my family is going to rent so that we can save up enough money to buy a house for my next generation?
It's cheaper for me to buy the house.
Agreed.
Well,
I pay to rent something that would fit my family. I spend $200 more renting something.
it's also cheaper to not tithe, though.
Oh, that's true.
I'm just saying.
It's big money.
All right, no time.
Sometimes obedience costs.
But I think that's the thought too. Is like, and you can look at it our societies as a relative perspective. Say, look, Americans live large. We make more money. We pull in more money. We spend more money than the vast majority of both the developed and the undeveloped world.
Mhm.
But like, I could make a tenth of what I make now, and I would be a burden on someone else in the streets of America. Like given where we're at as a society, like you could buck the system, and then you end up just. Like you don't fit into the culture anymore, and the problem is that type of a radical shift is just too distant for people to look at and say, look, I feel like I'm not even a part of that culture anymore. I can't sustain in America on that amount of money, even though I could take the same amount and you could do very, very well and be very generous and be very well off in a lot of other places.
So maybe it'd be better to just propose baby steps that the culture can actually follow along with you.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of what God did with the slavery. He didn't just abolish it. He said, all right, let's take a step that you guys can follow me on.
I like this Moon Man. Makes a lot of sense. I like what you're saying here.
All right.
I feel like you're using good biblical examples and not giving me a broad sea of topics to swim in. I just want to know how to live,
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
Just want to know how to walk the path.
Yeah, tell me how it's done. Baby steps. Okay, Ben,
Yeah.
what's something you could do starting tomorrow to help your grandkids buy their first house? Tomorrow. Sell something.
Okay.
Get rid of your dining room table. It's a formality. Who even sits at that thing?
It's a farce.
Yeah. Everybody wants to eat in the living room. You're
Yeah.
the only one trying to enforce not eating in the living
Yeah,
room.
that
You
does-
think it looks right.
That dining room table is a broken promise.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I'll sit on the floor.
You know the kids want to eat there watching TV. You want to be right there with them, but you're trying to hold up something in your house that you don't even believe in.
You guys must have some really expensive tables.
No. That worth about $50, but it's a start. Grandkids, listen, that's probably 60 years from now.
You save a little at a time.
Till they're going to buy
Special
a house.
account.
Yeah, see, but you'd have 15 special accounts, right? All going at the same time.
Yeah. You have a lot of grandkids, too.
Well, you got to save for college for your
Oh,
regular
yeah,
kids
yeah.
first.
Sure.
You got to help pay for their house.
You just need to take the Dave Ramsey class. He'll tell you everything. Yes, what is it, 12 baby steps?
Yeah, how much of that information is he giving to me for free?
Well, he's got his own baby steps
He's
got to
a
take care of.
capitalist thief. Okay.
You're listening to Live from the Path.
I don't know why. You need to save money. Go to work.
Get a third job.
Streets of America will eat you alive, Gator.
Oh man. What's a
Yeah.
what's a gator?
You think you're tough because you're a gator, but the streets will eat you. It was a double metaphor. The streets are tougher than a gator. You're the gator.
I didn't follow.
I'm gonna start saying that from now on.
All right, hey,
Done right, Joe.
we got one quick spot. Mike, go ahead.
Okay, dear, him, live from the path. What is proper when you're talking with someone and you notice the person has food stuck in his or her teeth? What if the person is part of a group and someone you don't know very well? Who's going to do it?
Okay, here's the deal. Don't say anything. Just hand him a stick of gum. It'll work its way out with the gum. Done.
You passive aggressive, Nancy. I say, you got something in your teeth, man. I'd go direct route.
Yeah, I probably would too. I mean, what's the embarrassment? You obviously just ate something.
You're saving them embarrassment.
It happens. I mean, I've had it happen to me. It's not like, oh, what they'll think less of me because I ate something and something got caught in my teeth.
Yeah, that's never happened.
Here's the thing. My family is notorious for this. Like all the ladies in my family. My grandma's terrible at this. My mom's terrible at this. Is like they always end up with ranch dressing on their cheek. And they're talking, and it's always moving. And then you're like looking at it.
You're hearing
while they're talking, you're like, Ma, you got ranch dressing on your cheek. Oh no, you know, like now here's the thing. I don't know how many people actually would say it. Everybody would say they would say it, but would you actually say it?
I would say it.
I do it all the time.
Nope.
When?
You can do it nicely. I'm always talking to people. Say, hey man, I just want you to know you got like a piece of pepper in your tooth. You might want to check the mirror in the bathroom. And they're always very appreciative. I've never had anybody get mad at me for saying that.
I can't. I just don't see. I don't see the offense. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're trying to save the other person embarrassment.
But I'm perfect.
He's
How could that
embarrassing
happen?
himself. All I'm doing is not like letting him know so he can fix it.
But that's what I'm saying. If he goes the whole day, if that pepper works itself on the way out before he even looks in the rear view, he never knew it happen. He thinks everything's hunky-dory.
What kind of life is that to lead?
A guy that is not worried about pepper in his teeth.
Well, I just like to wait until Dan actually gets up on stage, and then I tell him.
Yeah, that's the way to roll.
Hey,
Hey, Dan!
Yeah, Jude's nice and all.
are you
What's
a
in your
hockey
teeth?
player?
Yeah, I tell him outright.
Yeah, I think I
Nathaniel, now hold on. Now, after all that stuff we said, are you still going to go with the stick of gum?
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
I don't like
I live my
conflict.
ways.
Here's some Trident. Okay, all right. Let's try it. I got something in my teeth. Ready? We're just jawing, having a. How about that local sports team? Blah 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 blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Hey, man, want a stick of gum? I got a...
No,
Yeah,
no,
I'm going to stick one in right now.
no, thank you.
Oh, man. Shucks.
Because you look ridiculous.
Yeah, you're right. That was classic. You got away with people. Oh, hey, man, you want to stick gum? Shucks.
Shucks, man. Because you really got something in your teeth.
Okay, all right, Mike. Try. Hey, Mike, the local sports team. Blah 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 blah.
You got something in your face, Ben. It's right on your. It's on the middle tooth.
Did I get it?
No, I'll do it again.
But it's...
It's a natural stain.
You know what? Just leave it there. But it's distracting.
I drink a lot of Senka.
He says it's people you don't know at a fancy soiree.
Okay, let's try this again. You're the fancy man.
Okay. Mike Fuster. How about the local bowling league?
Yeah, I'm not really into that. You got something in your teeth. I don't know. I got to go back to serving the food. But seriously, you got pepper in your teeth.
Trying to think of cricket. That's what I was thinking.
What do rich people do?
Bowl. I can only think of the bowler, the guy that throws the cricket ball. Ah, crap. I'll never make it in one of these soirees.
It's a blue collar
When is
soiree.
the Felix and Oscars open?
Someone brought Bud Light in a can in here. Disgusting. I guess I'll have one.
What would have been the other thing to say? What would have been the best sport to choose?
Polo.
Golf.
No, golf's the common man anymore. They make those clubs like 8 feet wide. A common man can hit a ball 600
That's
feet.
true. It's become a brutes game. I don't play it. I've never been. I'm not.
Tennis?
I don't have the right type of shoes.
No, I think
Can
polo.
you play golf barefoot? Moon Man, you're a barefoot guy.
Yeah,
Can you play on the links with no shoes on?
sure.
Have you ever done it?
Well, not during the day.
I see.
That just opened up a whole lot more questions.
Moon Man is a nefarious night golfer. Hey, unfortunately, you've been listening to Live from the Path.
We're sorry.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We had a good time.
Yeah.
And enjoy your kitchen table.
Been fun.
And hey, we'll catch you next week, as we do every week at livefromthepath.org, 10 to 11 p.m. Central Time. And during the week, you can check out that site. Get a link to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/livefromthepath. You can check out past clips from the show. You want to watch the full show? That rocks. You can go to youtube.com/thepathonline. And we will see you next week. Thanks for hanging out with us. You can listen to Live from the Path.